July 10th, 2021, UFC 264, Nightfall in Las Vegas. The roar of the crowd could have been celebration or disappointment, or a mix of both. Deafening, confused, a post-pandemic, full-capacity crowd of 20,000 sat stunned as Conor McGregor, the Irish legend, the Notorious, sat with his back to the fence, shouting threats at his three-time opponent Dustin Poirier. The mighty McGregor had received a broken tibia, an embarrassing chastening, and he wasn't taking it easily. The event ended on a doctor stoppage, and McGregor was taken to the hospital, spitting venom the whole way there. In the days and weeks that followed, McGregor's anger would not abate. He continued to hurl frustrated social media posts at anyone he deemed as an enemy. He posted videos of himself shrugging off his injury. He threatened the family members of opponents past, even family members who had already passed away. And around this bitter tirade, a deeper conversation rose up around fans, fellow fighters, and media around the entire concept of persona. When does trash talk cross the line into something uglier, less forgivable? How far should we go to defend an entertainer, especially one who calls himself notorious? Should we have believed him all along? Who is Conor McGregor? And where does all of this fit in with who he always claimed to be? The Ultimate Fighting Network proudly presents Conor McGregor, a UFN documentary.
I was just being myself. I'm a cocky little kid from Dublin. I'm just being myself. I never set out to say, if I say this, it's gonna mean this. You know, I just carry on. I say what feels right at the time.
It's like the old movies, the classic underdog tales. Lots of fighters start out in adversity, but very few hit the jackpot of success like Conor McGregor. Born into relative poverty in Crumlin, Ireland, McGregor was no stranger to struggle. He watched his friends, neighbors, and family deal with the issues of poverty, financial limitations, unemployment, evictions, health problems. Raised in this kind of environment, he swore to himself that he wouldn't stay there. Those raised in poverty understand hunger differently. It's all around them. They don't have to try to be hungry. Bullied as a child, McGregor picked up boxing as a way to defend himself. What began as a way to raise his self-esteem soon turned into a hobby. But it didn't become an all-consuming passion until he met Tom Egan in 2006. And they began to train in MMA together. Egan would go on to have his own UFC career, but before that, they were just two Irish kids learning a new discipline as a way to make some money and stay out of trouble. At that time, Ireland wasn't even on the radar when it came to MMA. There were no famous fighters from Ireland. The UFC didn't have a presence there. McGregor and Egan had no national role models to look up to in their chosen discipline. Even McGregor's own family didn't quite understand what it was he was trying to do, not at first. But when his amateur career quickly turned pro in 2008, something clicked. McGregor enjoyed a successful regional career fighting in and around Ireland for 5 years, building a reputation locally. This fan base would end up being the launch pad for his fame in a rather unexpected way. In early 2013, a prominent American businessman was in Dublin to accept the Gold Medal of Honorary Patronage from Trinity College, and was subsequently flooded with requests from fans to meet with Conor McGregor and take him under his wing. This businessman was, of course, UFC President Dana White. The fans begged White to consider signing McGregor to the UFC. And White found himself unable to refuse McGregor's indisputable talent and charisma. The UFC offered McGregor a contract and launched a new chapter in MMA history.
Look at this Irish man, look at his successful fighting career.
Persona is the unspoken key to a career in any entertainment field. The athletes who succeed are often extraordinarily talented, But entertainment is about persona, and talent alone isn't usually enough. Some fighters build a persona around honor and goodness, stepping into the octagon like superheroes. But some find the perfect niche as rogues, trash talkers, heels, villains. Conor McGregor, with his Irish wit and candor, slipped easily into the role of a lovable villain, and it skyrocketed his career. He had what many consider the perfect mix of skill and personality. Bold, brash, driven, and hilarious. Not only could he insult you, but he could back it up too. He was the newest bad boy of the sport. In a few short years, Conor McGregor became the face of the MMA in such a dramatic way that even people who knew nothing about UFC knew his face. He was his own best promoter, talking himself up, selling himself to anyone who would listen. And people did listen. His fan base swelled from a local few to global millions, and McGregor became extremely lucrative for the UFC. In turn, the UFC was very lucrative for him. During this short but meteoric rise, McGregor managed to bag championship titles in 3 different weight divisions simultaneously, a first for the UFC, and became a key figure on social media, showing off his expensive houses, cars, and clothes. But with the good came the bad. He was constantly on the wrong side of the law, disorderly and messy, uncontrollable. He acted untouchable, and maybe he was. The poverty-stricken kid from Dublin seemed to disappear almost overnight, leaving a whole new man in his wake. But was this man real or just a mask that McGregor wore? It was hard to tell. Just as quickly as he peaked, close observers noticed the shift. With money and fame comes the inevitable feeling of being satisfied. What's there to fight for if you're still full off your last meal? The more money McGregor made, the more he seemed to lose focus. The actual tipping point is disputed. Was it the unsuccessful boxing match with Mayweather, his first UFC loss to Nate Diaz in 2016, or his dramatic defeat at the hands of Khabib Nurmagomedov in 2018, the culmination of a long and bitter rivalry? Regardless, fans and analysts noticed the change. And they noticed it even more when McGregor attempted to change, rehabilitate his image into a more friendly, calm, eloquent version of himself.
Why are you happy now?
I mean, I'm just focused, I'm just committed. You know when you say to yourself, right, you know what you've got to do, right? We all know what we've got to do. We say to ourselves, I should do it this way, or I should do this. And when you don't do that, and then you carry on, you feel, you know, like I always say, doubt is removed by action. So if you're not working, then that's where the doubt seeps in. So I knew things I should have been doing and things I shouldn't have been doing, and I still did them and didn't do them, if you get me. But now I'm listening to myself, and I followed my internal instruction, and it's just given me more passion and more focus and more drive, and I'm doing what I feel I need to do, and it feels good. So that's it.
In early January 2021, McGregor rematched against Dustin Poirier. The lead-up to this fight was different, almost civil. McGregor acted respectfully, no trash talk, no viciousness. Perhaps he truly was a different man, or perhaps he was simply feeling confident, since he had handily beaten Poirier only a handful of years before, back in 2014. But that was then, and this was now. To the shock of the MMA community, Poirier won their rematch by brutal knockout. The nice guy persona fell away, and McGregor launched headlong into prepping for another chance. A third fight was scheduled for July 10th. The trash talk came back bigger than ever.
So I'm gonna prove how dangerous I am, because trust me, in the mindset I'm in, I'm really, really dangerous. This man is not, it's not gonna be pretty what's gonna happen to this man in here.
Let's rewind the clock to the press conferences leading up to the sequel between you and Dustin Poirier. People looked at you and said, you were incredibly nice. You were nicer than anybody had ever seen Conor McGregor be
Yeah,
towards an
that.
opponent. Why was that?
You know, I feel almost pity for some people in the game, to be honest. I had a little bit of pity for Dustin. You know, he's been around many years. You know, it's not a pretty game for a lot of people in this business. And I just came back and, you know, wanted to be respectful and, you know, give the dues. And, you know, that this time, you know, it wasn't reciprocated. It was shady. It's not that I didn't know about it. It's not that I didn't know the intentions. But now the intentions are clear, and I'm gonna punish him for that.
And this fight would be massive. A full arena, the first after the pandemic restrictions dropped. Higher than usual fight night bonuses, pay-per-view, the works. But the fight never made it past the first round. A series of calf kicks culminated in McGregor breaking his tibia, limping backwards in shock only to collapse against the fence. And in the shocked minutes that followed, McGregor screamed and shouted, bellowing threats to Poirier and his family, cursing like a madman. And the whole world saw. There is perhaps no more tragic picture than an angry, bitter, wounded fighter ungracious in defeat. But there it was for all to see, and no one could miss it. Who is Conor McGregor? Did he show us, or has he always hidden it? Persona is a tricky thing. There was nothing false about McGregor's talent, his abilities in the cage. There was nothing fake about his winning, about the money he made, about his desire to run as far away from the poverty of his past as possible. That was real. But in those moments when the cameras were on, who was Conor McGregor? A rogue with a sharp tongue and a quick wit? A character trash-talking just to get a reaction? Or deep down, was he always angry, bitter, ugly on the inside? In the end, we can only see as much of Conor McGregor as he wants to show us. And perhaps as his wounds heal and his mind clears, we may see a different man emerge once again. One who has learned something about himself, who is ready for a new chapter in his career. One who has dug deep and reclaimed the young kid from Dublin who just wanted to get out, to succeed. But persona is a tricky, fickle thing. And no matter how notorious he is, no matter who he claims to be, now or in the future, we may have to accept that we may never see the real Conor McGregor, or that the real Conor McGregor is someone we never wanted to meet.
So if you do it,
It's done.
what does that mean for your future in the
Keep
UFC?
going, on to the next one. On to the next one. I flew in on the jet just now. We saw the Allegiant Stadium, which is a phenomenal looking stadium. I'd like to fight in that at the end of the year. This is what I love to do, man. I'm
Against who?
born and bred to do this. Like I said, you can go back way in time. My name, my family name were bred on the battlefield, swinging pickaxes on the back of a horse. You know what I mean? That's where the McGregor name comes from. We come from the Scottish Highlands. We're warriors. It's all I know. It's all we know. So I'm going to be doing it for a long, long time yet.
This has been a UFN production. Like, share, and subscribe to the Ultimate Fighting Network for more documentaries just like this one. Thank you for watching.